Somebody who's been following this week's talks in Washington between the Obama administration and the Chinese has been Nicholas Lardy, a senior fellow with the Peterson Institute for International Economics. The chairman of the Peterson Institute, Peter Peterson, has a separate foundation, which is among those providing funding for World Focus. Thanks very much for being with us. There's been a perception that the Chinese are growing skittish about investing so much money in America. Was the Treasury Secretary able to convince them about the soundness of the U.S. economy?
Well, they seem to be persuaded of the soundness of the dollar, both today and going forward. But, you know, at least that's what they said. What they really think, of course, is hard to know, given the prospective large U.S. Budget deficits going forward over the next several years. They certainly have reason for concern, given the large volume of dollar holdings that they have now.
And I guess the question becomes, do you think the Chinese are really convinced that the Obama administration will take steps to cut the deficit once our economy is finally back on its feet?
Well, that was certainly the message from Secretary Geithner and Chairman Bernanke. They have both addressed this question in slightly different ways. Mr. Geithner talking about reducing the budget deficit substantially by 2010 or 2013, not 2010, by 2012 or 13. And Mr. Bernanke spoke about the various so-called exit strategies, which basically means the reduction of Fed support for lending and other financial activities in the U.S. economy. However, as I said, these are prospective plans. In some cases, they have to be approved by the Congress, which may prove difficult. And the real problem for the Chinese is that they really don't have too much choice. If they didn't believe these plans, what would they do? They could sell their dollars now. That would precipitate what they're trying to avoid, which is a decline in the value of a dollar. So they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, I would say.
Trade issues, they were also on the table. The Americans have been concerned about what they see as efforts by the Chinese to undercut American exports. Any movement there?
Well, they both pledged to not adopt protectionist measures. I think each side was trying to explain that its policies were not discriminatory, that the Buy American program was consistent with our WTO obligations. China, of course, is not a participant in the government procurement code that governs those transactions, but they said that they were open and not discriminating against U.S. and other foreign goods.
How do you see the economic relations between these two countries evolving over the coming months and years?
Well, I think it's a complicated relationship. Both sides benefit substantially. It's a very important trade relationship. It's obviously, as your questions indicate, very, very important on the financial side as well. I'm hoping it will become more balanced as we increase savings here and are not going into debt in order to finance such a big trade deficit. Our deficit has been coming down the past couple of years, and there are now indications that the Chinese surplus is also shrinking substantially. So we may have a somewhat more balanced relationship than in the recent past.
Nicholas Lardy, thanks very much for talking with us.
Thank you.